Alright, my name is Richard Pickering, and I'm making this video basically just for educational purposes. And my aim in this video is to explain what I believe to be the core difference between two different cultures. And it's our Western way of life and Islam. And basically, I want to explain why I believe that this multiculturalism that the world and that everybody speaks of just doesn't work and never will work, and why I don't believe that our two cultures could ever totally intermesh. Does that mean that I don't believe that we could live together? Absolutely not. We could live together. We could respect each other's cultures, but do I believe that we could ever totally mesh and become one? Absolutely not. And that's basically what I want to explain to you, and what when I get down to the core, it kind of helps me understand why we perceive each other so differently and why we just seem to be so different. And basically what it comes down to, what I believe it comes down to, is the core, absolute core middle difference between us is the fact of how we view human life, okay? And as our Western society, and it's not just in the West, it's all over the world, but I'm going to refer to it as our Western culture because people understand what I'm talking about. But us as Westerners, or Americans, we value human life above all else. I mean, we preserve human life, we put it on a pedestal above all else, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to preserve human life, you know? And basically what I mean by that is that the average Westerner is willing to do what's wrong in order to preserve human life. I mean, you come to a crossroads in your life where you may need to, and this isn't like happens to everybody, but I'm just saying, the average person comes to a crossroad in their life where they need to make a decision, where they need to do what's wrong. They need to break the law or do what's morally wrong in order to preserve this human life, and we will. We will accept doing wrong to preserve this human life. And that is basically the main difference, okay? We preserve life above all else. And in Islam, they're different than us, okay? We get this blind feeling, or just I don't know exactly what you would call it, but this notion that every human being on planet Earth just agrees with us and feels the same way that we do, and no, that's not the case. And basically, Islam values right and wrong. They value what's right and what's wrong over all else. And they value it over human life. And I'm not saying who's right or wrong. I know who I believe is right or wrong, and that's because I'm a Westerner. The value I have is life above all else. Well, they value right and wrong. And what I mean by that is that they're not willing to do what's wrong in order to preserve human life. They're actually, you know, they're willing to take human life in order to make something right that is wrong. I'll give an example. You know, a husband can come home and let's say that he witnesses his wife to look at another man with lustful eyes. Okay, that's against the law, and he turns her in or whatever. I don't know the exact law process, but basically they decide, all right, she's guilty and they need to stone her to death. And they'll dig a hole in the ground and they'll bury her up to her chest, you know, her arms and all, and then they'll throw stones at her. And the first people to cast a stone at will actually be her children and her family. And we hear that, and it's just, that's ludicrous to us. It's unfathomable. It's like it has to be just this radical small group. No, we need to understand why they're doing what they're doing. And I'm not saying it's okay. I don't believe it is. But you need to look at the reason that they're doing what they're doing. And the reason is because they value right and wrong over life. The only way that they can be sure, the only way that they can right the wrong that their mother did and be sure that she'll never make that mistake again is to take her life. And I'm going to give an example here, and I hope it doesn't get taken the wrong way. I'm not a bigot. I have nothing against other religions. I think everybody should have the right to freedom of religion. But basically, what I'm going to show you is it'll give relevance to what I'm saying, okay? Us as Westerners, I'm a Westerner, and okay, I have a dog. And if my dog was to go out, and let's say that he was to bite a child across the street, I will kill the dog. Now there's lots of people in the world who would say that I'm just inhumane and that I'm wrong, just as wrong as if it was a human. And they may be right, I don't know. But I know this, in that situation, I value what's right and wrong over that dog's life. The only way that I can be sure that he will never make the mistake that he made again is if I take his life. I could never trust him again to be in that situation and take the risk of him ever doing that again. And the only way that I can be sure of that, and that he never hurts another child, is to take his life. So I will. And that basically is the same idea of what they're doing. Okay? They don't value life the same way that we do. So it's not, they're fixing the wrong. They're putting what's right and wrong above all else. And to say who's right or wrong in that situation, I really don't know. I'm not going to say who's right or wrong. I know how I feel and what I value, but I'm not going to say that doing wrong to preserve human life is right, because I can't say and I don't know. I know what's right to me, and I'm not going to say that valuing what's right and wrong over human life is right or wrong, because I really can't say, you know what I'm saying? I know what's right to me, but basically that's what I see as the fundamental core difference between us, you know, and that's the reason why we can never totally mix cultures. It could never work. It will never happen, because you can't mix someone who values life above all else, values life above right and wrong, with someone who values right and wrong above life. That will never mix. It will never. There's no way to make that one. It's an impossibility. So can we live together? Absolutely. We can be neighbors. We don't have to mesh cultures to live next to each other. But is it going to be a little difficult for us? Absolutely, because our culture, that fundamental difference is so valid, I guess you would say, that we're always going to be trying to. One is going to be trying to infringe on the other, you know? I mean, that's just the natural state of that. If we can't become one, then we're always going to be trying to creep into theirs, and they're always going to be trying to creep into ours, and that's basically what I see, and that's the reason that I say that multiculturalism isn't realistic, okay? It's just not. I'm not saying that we can't live with other cultures. I'm just saying that we can't mix cultures and make it one culture. Okay, we have separate cultures for a reason, and we have separate values, and we believe separate things, and we hold separate things at higher importance in our life, and that basically to me is what I see as the reason that we could never mix cultures.